So I've been loving Death Stranding 2 lately, and I was gonna initially make a video solely on that game, but I started to take a look around, and now I want to talk about the Game of the Year race for 2025. Reason being is I don't think people realize how much the Game of the Year running is starting to fill up, as I've really only seen people talk about Death Stranding 2, Expedition 33, and Kingdom Come: Deliverance 2. There's only 6 nominations though at the Game Awards for Game of the Year, and I just named 3 games right there. The thing is though, I will say that I don't believe Kingdom Come: Deliverance will be nominated, as I think there will be more deserving titles there and just higher rated titles by the end of the year. Now though, let's run down how the Game of the Year race is looking for 2025 more than halfway through the year. So let's get Death Stranding 2 out of the way first. The first Death Stranding was nominated for Game of the Year in 2019 when it released, and this game features so many improvements on top of what Hideo Kojima built with the first game. I'm about 10 hours into the game as of this recording, and I think the story has been phenomenal so far and doesn't take as long to pick up compared to the first game. The gunplay in this game is also very much improved over the first game, and just the gameplay and overall experience has been more fun in my opinion compared to the first. It's funny saying that because there was actually the quote that composer and artist Woodkid brought up not too long ago, saying that Kojima felt playtesters were having too much fun with the game, and this caused Kojima to go in and make gameplay changes. Well, clearly this hasn't changed the overall enjoyment for the game, as people have really been praising this game, and also critics have loved it as well, and I think the gameplay is honestly much more approachable in DS2 compared to the first game. This is really not an opinion thing for me either, as Kojima himself reportedly spoke on the tempo of the game and walking speed of the main character Sam Porter Bridges being sped up when trying to improve on things that were unpopular about the first game. There was other quality of life improvements that were also added in as well, and little things like being able to use Dahlman to get a better scope of the area you're about to traverse and be prepared for anything you're about to face is something that I really liked as well. I'm not going to get into much more just for the fact that I don't want to spoil things for other people, but this is certainly going to be one of my favorite games of 2025 by the time the end of the year rolls around. And this definitely improves on the first game and also adds in a lot of very appreciated quality of life improvements over the first game, with an even more well-rounded and expanded cast of actors, a great narrative, and many great quality of life improvements that were built on top of a 2019 Game of the Year nominee. Death Stranding will definitely be one of my top 6 games for the year of 2025, and I'm sure it will also be in the Game Awards for the 2025 Game of the Year. Many people might think that this game will only get a nomination for Game of the Year due to Jeff Keighley and Hideo Kojima's great relationship, but this is a game that is certainly deserving of many awards come this December. The next game I want to talk about is Donkey Kong Bonanza, and it's funny because I did not expect to be this excited for this game when it was first revealed at the Switch 2 Direct. This game seemed like it had potential to be a lot of fun when it was first shown off at that said Direct, but I had no idea where they take the story and whether the gameplay would be engaging or just mindless fun. The Direct exclusively for this game though that happened in June answered a lot of concerns that I had about the game. While people can have their issues with it being a younger Pauline and complaining about the timeline of when this takes place, I think the inclusion of a younger Pauline and DK saving her will probably provide backstory that Nintendo wants to try and build on with Pauline in terms of making her a more prominent character in upcoming Mario games. I like the skill tree elements and the different transformations also, and I think it's going to make this game super expansive and fun to try and unlock everything. I'm a big fan of 3D platformers, and the only 2 games that I've actually ever platinumed on PlayStation were Astro's Playroom and Astrobot, so I wouldn't be surprised if this is a game that I also 100% with how fun and expansive it looks like the gameplay is going to be. There was a tweet that I saw on June 18th when the actual Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct aired, and it was joking about the fact that this game felt like more of an expansive JRPG than Final Fantasy VII Remake. And while that was obviously just a joke, I think the fact that you have the skill tree and the costumes and outfits and stuff that are really going to be able to change your experience for this game and how you approach it really make this something that I'm very excited for. The embargo to release footage and info from the hands-on preview for Donkey Kong Bonanza was lifted on July 1st, and we've seen great things from what was released since the embargo lifted. VGC published multiple things about this game, including gameplay and also a story confirming what many people speculated, which is that the developers behind Super Mario Odyssey also developed this game. I also felt that IGN's hands-on preview was good, and they went as far as to even call this game the Switch 2's first killer app. I would also suggest checking out Nintendo Life's video going over their time playing the game, because I believe they did a great job also, and Nintendo certainly timed the embargo for outlets' hands-on impressions perfectly, because I'm even more excited for this game now, and VGC even said they believe some of the game's best bits are hiding under the surface. I'm so excited for this game, and I honestly think that DK Bananza has a really good chance to score at least a 90 on Metacritic. giving my final prediction, I'd say it lands between an 88 to a 92 and will be one of the Game of the Year contenders for sure come December. Metroid Prime 4 Beyond is another game that I 100% think has a chance to be in the Game of the Year running by the end of the year. Every single game in the Metroid Prime series has an aggregate score of 90 or above on Metacritic, and they're just genuinely great games. I think everything that we've seen from this game looks absolutely exciting and phenomenal, and this was probably the game that I was the most excited to try if I was able to snag a ticket or an invite to one of those Switch 2 playtest events that happened earlier this year. Visually, the game looks phenomenal on both the base Switch 1 as well as the Switch 2, and that's no surprise as Retro Studios has always been able to get the most out of a system. Whether that was how great the original Metroid Prime looked on the GameCube back in the day, or the fact that the remaster of Metroid Prime on the Switch looked closer to a full-on remake than a remaster. Gameplay-wise, Prime 4 Beyond looks just like a typical Metroid Prime game, but that's honestly all I need from this game. There's certainly going to be different twists or additions to separate this game or differentiate it from the other 3 games in the Prime series, but honestly, I just want Nintendo to give us that release date already. Honestly, I don't even need to see anything else about this game, as I'm already sold since the original Metroid Prime game is one of my favorite video games of all time, but any other little gameplay trailers or details that they reveal prior to the release will definitely get me more excited for this game. Honestly, I don't really want anything about this game spoiled, as like I said, I'm already sold on it, so hopefully we just get a release date for this game soon. Let's hope though, after the hype and release of Donkey Kong Bonanza is behind us, that we end up getting a direct or maybe even just a tweet or post about when this game will be releasing later on this year, if it does still make it out for this year. Now, I don't know if this will sound crazy, but the game that I did think could be the possible Game of the Year for me when we were entering 2025 is Ghost of Yotei. Now, I don't think this game will beat out some of the other games that have released already or will be releasing later this year, but I think based on how good of a job Sucker Punch did with Ghost of Tsushima, that Ghost of Yotei will be a game that's 100% a top 6 game this year and will earn a Game of the Year nomination. Prior to the release of Yakuza Like a Dragon, my 2020 Game of the Year was Ghost of Tsushima. I loved that game, and it was almost like it scratched the itch that Assassin's Creed hasn't been able to scratch for me for years. The story of Jin was very well done, and the gameplay was satisfying, and it felt like the perfect level of difficulty on hard. You're not getting me to play that game on lethal, because after a few hours of playing Ghost of Tsushima on lethal, I started getting my ass kicked. I think this story with its main character Atsu taking place 300 years after the first game and how they can possibly expand Atsu's character and even relate things to the first game is a very interesting focus. Do we find out that Atsu has some kind of relation to Jin from the first game? Will it simply be just Atsu trying to take on the mantle of the ghost? With different things from the trailers like we've seen of the wolf possibly symbolizing Jin, or how Atsu was guided by the wind in the same way that Jin's father was, there's so many different little things that Sucker Punch and Sony have sprinkled in for fans of the first game to pick up on, and this is yet another game that I'm already sold on and excited to see the direction that they take this game and its story. Expect Ghost of Yotei to be one of the best games by this year's end. Now, before I get to my personal Game of the Year pick, as of right now, I want to talk about a little wild card spot, or who can grab that final spot. Now, let's start with the most unlikely. I've seen many people throw around the possibility of Mario Kart World being nominated for Game of the Year, but honestly, I doubt that will happen, as I think there's going to be many more games that are more deserving or have a higher rating, and there hasn't been a single Jeff Keighley Game Awards show where 3 Nintendo games were nominated for Game of the Year. Now, I've loved Mario Kart World in the time that I've played it, but it definitely has its issues, and I certainly don't think it'll be in the Game of the Year running by the end of the year. The next one up is Split Fiction. This game is still one of the highest rated games of 2025 and comes from Hazelight Studios, who created A Way Out and It Takes Two, for those of you unaware. A Way Out was nominated for Best Game Direction at the 2018 Game Awards. It Takes Two won the 2021 Game of the Year award, and with Split Fiction being the 3rd highest rated game this year if you don't count any re-releases, I think there's close to no doubt that this game will get a nomination at the end of the year. Finally, let's talk about another elephant in the room, and that is Hollow Knight Silksong. I loved Hollow Knight back when I originally played it, and I think Silksong really has the potential to be a great game also. All of us who loved the first game feels like we've been waiting forever for Silksong, and just with the fact that this game on Twitter trends every single time that you see a showcase pop up from Nintendo, Microsoft, or Sony tells you all you need to know about the hype surrounding this game. The fact that we still haven't got any info on this game, at least as of right now, tells me that there's still a chance it doesn't release in 2025. I don't want to manifest that energy or say that, but I think there is definitely a chance that it doesn't make it out this year. But if it does, I do expect this game to be a potential Game of the Year nominee, especially if they're able to capitalize and improve on what they did with the first Hollow Knight game. I think out of these three, Split Fiction will be the game that gets the nomination out of these three, just based on especially how great of a rating it still has, and the fact that, like I said, it is still a top 3 game if we don't count re-releases. But I would be stupid to say that there's no chance for Hollow Knight Silksong to be nominated if they do get it out this year. Now finally, let's finish up with what my Game of the Year is right now, Clair Obscur Expedition 33. The original Death Stranding very well might be in my top 25 video games of all time, and I usually always tend to say that is one of my favorite games ever made. And now loving Death Stranding 2, like I said, it does so much right and does so much to improve on what the first game did and really take away and take out all of the negatives that the first game had. And maybe by the end of my playthrough of DS2, that is my Game of the Year, but I don't know. When just comparing it to Clair Obscur Expedition 33, I doubt that. There was really something so special about entering Lumiere at the start of Expedition 33 and continuing to explore the world and all of the characters that the game had to offer. The unique and creative nature of the game's world and just how emotional the story ended up getting really is why I think this will still be my Game of the Year by the end of the year. I've loved my time with Death Stranding 2, and as you could clearly tell, I'm a Kojima fan with this A24 X Kojima shirt, but since I already entered this world and met a lot of these characters in Death Stranding 2 when I played the first game, Death Stranding 2 has that working against it, whereas Expedition 33 was a totally new world and a totally new experience for me. Expedition 33 was a breath of fresh air and something totally new that really blew me away by the end of my playthrough, and that's saying a lot because I was actually very excited for this game prior to its release anyway. So Expedition 33 is still my Game of the Year as of right now, and I'm not too sure if that'll change. I might have totally just gotten my predictions wrong in terms of the games that I think will be nominated for Game of the Year come December, but I do genuinely think this will probably be the most likely list of games that'll end up being nominated at Jeff Keighley's Game Awards show later on this year. I want to know down below in the comment section what games you think will be nominated for Game of the Year, what games you think will be nominated for any other awards, or if you disagree with any of my Game of the Year nominee predictions. If you enjoyed the video, then make sure to give it a like as it helps me out a lot. And if you're new to my channel, then make sure to hit that subscribe button as I have a lot of fun content planned to be released over the next couple months. Thank you guys so much for watching though, and I am out. Peace.